Welcome to Armchair Expert. I'm Frank Hamburger, and I'm joined by...
Sally Taco?
Sally Taco. It's been a long time since, we had a guest in person.
Yes. It was so exciting to be back in person.
It was incredible. So today's guest is Mackelmore, and Mackelmore, of course, is a Grammy Award-winning rapper and songwriter. His albums include The Language of My World, Gemini, The Heist, This Unruly Mess I've Made, and he has a new golf clothing brand called Bogey Boys, and he personally designs this stuff, and he brought it, and he was wearing it, and he looked handsome as hell, and he left some for us.
Yeah,
and it was
really
gorgeous.
Cool. Yeah.
But the level of honesty from him, the self-awareness, the everything was off the charts.
It was really a special episode. And I think, like a lot of the guests we have, sometimes people, including us, come in with some preconceptions.
Sure.
And it's just nice to hear from the person.
Oh my God, yeah. We absolutely loved him. And he brought his wife. Yeah. And we met her, and that was lovely as well. So please enjoy Mackelmore.
He's an armchair expert. He's an armchair expert. He's an armchair expert.
Check. Yeah, we're in there.
Nice. Just talk for one more second. I'll make sure.
Check. 1 2 1 2.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Yes.
That's really nice.
Okay, that's the whole episode. So
Yeah.
thanks for coming.
Thank you for having. I'm glad we could do it in person. It felt different. I don't think we could have got this on Zoom.
Exactly.
You're sober, right?
I am.
Everything runs through the sober filter a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, so yesterday, I didn't even tell you this, Money.
You relapsed?
Another relapse. They're coming hot and fast. I talked to the infectious disease doctor, which I had not ever spoken to. I just deal with my surgeon. And so we're talking.
He's in love with his surgeon.
Oh, head over heels. He's the sexiest, most competent man alive.
Little man crush. Huh?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Delamajaro, big shout out. Sexiest man alive. Anyways, so I said to the infectious disease guy, I said, where did the infection come from? Was it like the bruising caused necrotic tissue that then got infected or something? And he said, no. It most certainly got infected on the first surgery, right?
Oh.
He's like, unless someone put a needle in your arm with bacteria into the bone, it probably happened while the suture was healing. So insanely, this fucking bicycle accident that I was so mad about that I then had to have another surgery about totally saved me. He's like, that infection would have become a very big deal in your life had we not found it by going back in. So I was like, is that... I mean, I'm not a God person, but I'm like, that's a pretty crazy fucking chain of events to find out, they would have not known about that infection.
Oof.
Damn. Well... Electric bikes in LA.
You got to watch your ass. Bikes are more dangerous than motorcycles.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense.
I mean, I hear about way more people dying on bicycles than motorcycles.
Yeah. Driving here for the last 12 hours. It just seems sketchy.
Yeah, it's not easy.
The speed limit here is 40. Like, I'm going like 32. Like, this is intense.
Well, can I make a generalization about Washingtonites?
Okay.
Seattleites.
Yeah, you're going to hurt my feelings off the jump. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I'm going to both flatter you a bunch today, and I'm going to hurt your feelings a bunch. Okay, so I dated a girl for 9 years that was from Marysville. When it rains in Seattle, which occurs 280 days of the year.
It's depressing, but true, yes.
People drive about 21 miles an hour on the highway.
Yeah.
Now, I'm from Detroit, where in 7 inches of snow, people are still going 85. People are spinning out of control up onto viaducts and shit. But I would always say to Bree, I'm like, you would think you guys would be a little more comfortable driving in the rain.
You would. It starts to rain, and you're like, you guys, we've had this for a while now, okay?
Yes.
We're on day 90 of rain consecutive days. We should have this figured out, and we don't.
Yeah. It's one of the few strikes I would put against the greater Seattle area.
Just a couple.
Can I now fluff your pillows?
Please.
Okay. Now, when I was a practicing alcoholic, top 3 places to drink in my life that I've had the most fun, Capitol Hill.
Yeah.
And you're from Capitol Hill, yeah?
I am. Born and raised, yes.
Tell Monica what Capitol Hill's all about.
We talking about Capitol Hill in the 80s, or are we talking about Capitol Hill now?
Oh, that's a good distinction to make.
Because they are very different. My wife and I were talking about this yesterday. I grew up in Capitol Hill. It was a very progressive neighborhood. Kind of the LGBTQ hub of...
The Castro of...
Yes, absolutely.
Or the West Hollywood.
And it was an arts community. It was people that wrote graffiti and were gay and did drugs. And I feel like the goth movement, I don't know if it actually came from Seattle, but like the hipster movement before it was called like hipster, it's like that's what Capitol Hill was growing up. And since then, it has become a place where Amazon employees live. And very high rent.
It's like bohemian, but it's expensive.
Yeah, basically all the artists got priced out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you have people, condos, and people that can afford those, and those aren't the artists.
So then I guess I was probably there in the sweet spot, which was mid-90s,
Yes.
which is like, there were so many bars, so much pedestrian traffic to support all these like restaurants, bars, blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't crazy expensive.
No, not at all.
Yeah, and it was a great place to black out. Other favorite place to drink,
Yeah.
Gasworks Park.
Yeah.
You ever go down there and drink a 40?
That was a little north for me, but yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
okay.
There's been 40 ounces consumed at Gasworks, yes.
I just can't get over the rain.
Oh, sure,
Once you
sure.
once you started talking about the rain, because I have seasonal affective disorder.
Monica, where are you from?
Georgia.
Georgia.
Yeah.
There's some rain there, but
More sunshine than rain.
yeah, exactly. And it doesn't affect you, or do you like it?
No, I'm depressed.
Yeah,
Okay.
there we go.
And then you throw in some COVID and you're not allowed to travel and you're like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing about my job has been I get to leave for a substantial amount of time.
And you have two little
Yes.
kids?
I have two little girls, yeah.
How old are they?
3 and almost 6.
Oh, yeah, you're dying to get the fuck out of the house for like just a weekend's all you
My
need.
wife
at a
is in the
hotel,
corner,
right?
but
Yeah.
you know, Dax, yes.
Let's be real.
No, I mean, I think that there's just time periods in Seattle where like you have the rain season, it hits in October, and it's like, okay, here we are. But we got Halloween at the end of the month.
Okay.
You know,
okay.
and
Something to
football
look
for you
forward to.
starting
and
up.
football
Yeah,
starting,
yeah,
we're
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, it's the holidays. And then it's New Year's. And then it's like, oh my God, it's going to rain for another 4 to 5 months
No,
straight.
no.
And that is tough. Like once it hits January, February, the depression is very real.
Oh.
Now, I have an armchair theory about Seattle, which is, again, I used to go there.
Sead.
Oh, my God,
It
Monica.
says sad.
Really good.
I don't think I've ever heard that. Seriously.
Seattle puts the sad and addle.
I'm definitely stealing all of these for t-shirts.
But in my time up there, I had the most predictable pattern. I would arrive. They lived right on the Puget Sound. It was gorgeous. I would go, God, this is one of the most beautiful places in the world. The pine trees, the evergreens, the mist in the morning.
Yes.
Oh, that would be day 1 and day 2. Day 3, I'd find out like, oh, I slept till 10. That's not like me. And then day 3, I would sleep till 11. And then I would just find that I was so exhausted when I was up there that I would drink copious amounts of coffee. And I thought, oh, well, that's the goddamn reason Seattle's so known for coffee.
Right.
Everyone's exhausted, right? Am I right about this?
Since you started talking about this, I've gotten more fatigued and I need to drink this coffee. I'll say this. It's almost cliche to say the one thing that is good about the rain is I feel like for artists, it keeps you inside.
Oh,
Like when I'm in
yeah.
LA, I'm like, oh, but I want to get outside. I don't want to create today. It's sunny.
Great
If
point.
you're in Seattle, you're like, I literally do not want to open my doorknob.
Yeah.
I might as well stay inside and make some art. And I'm sad.
Yeah.
Which the best
kinda
art
helpful.
comes from
Yeah.
depression. So let's
Yeah.
get sad. Let's stay inside. Let's make some music.
Yeah, it's a liability to be happy and content as an artist.
No, it doesn't work.
Career suicide to find meaning. Why were your parents in Capitol Hill? What did they do?
My mom, when I was born, was a social worker. My dad worked at a furniture company spot.
Manufacturing or selling?
He was selling, actually. He was in sales.
Okay.
And yeah, I think they were hippies. They moved to Seattle. They did drugs. They partied and kicked it.
Good.
I'm sure my mom right now will be listening and be like, oh, we didn't do drugs. Yeah, they did drugs. It was a poppin' neighborhood. They were in their like late 20s, early 30s, and they were still going out and kicking it and having a good time.
Yeah. Did they move from other states there?
They were in Oakland
Okay.
and moved up to Seattle.
Okay. It's a similar vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little chilly, a little overcast.
Yes, all that.
So you got interested in music quite early. Yeah. You were like 6 years old or something.
Yeah, I think from the beginning, I remember the first song that I really fell in love with was from the Beverly Hills Cops soundtrack.
A lot of good jams on there.
The Heat Is On.
The heat is on.
Like, what a line.
The heat is on.
Yeah.
Right?
That build up. And I just love that shit. I don't know. It was just like, I remember having this like little boombox and just being like, play it again. Play it again. It was really that was the intro to music. And then I went from that to like gangster rap at 7 years old.
Okay.
My next door neighbor was probably like 10 or 11. And it was NWA transitioning from the Beverly Hills Cops soundtrack to just straight up like Ice Cube.
Okay, great. So I was looking at your influences, and I saw some overlap for us, which was exciting for me. But Talib Kweli, we both, we love.
Absolutely.
Yes. Ice Cube for me, I could probably every lyric off of every single CD of his.
Right.
But you were more of East Coasty?
Well, yes. I mean, I started out, again, this is when I was like 7 years old. So we go through a whole West Coast gangster rap and pop music and Michael Jackson into, as I got older, teenage years, East Coast all the way for a while there. And the Wu-Tang Clan and Biggie and Mobb Deep and all that. At the time, it's interesting because looking at myself as a middle schooler, this East Coast, West Coast beef was such like, you almost had to pick a side.
Sure.
Even being like a white kid from Capitol Hill, it was like, well, are you East Coast or West Coast? So, yeah, there was an era, absolutely, it was just East Coast, and then it was just everything.
Monica, do you know what, like, the difference?
everything.
I know you know everything. Okay. I'm so sorry to have even asked.
No, I was going to say I need to know more about the riff.
Okay, well, the Rift is one thing, right? So the Rift is there's a BET award. Puffy and his crew's winning a lot of shit. Suge Knight's winning a lot of stuff with his crew. And then at some point, Suge Knight's on stage. He says, if you want to work with the producers, that's not all up in the videos, burning Puffy. That sets the whole thing off. Everything kind of then builds after that moment. But prior to that, I would say I identified with East Coast rap. Not for that reason, not because of that, but in my opinion, West Coast rap was more like fuck and party. And East Coast was more like bohemian, semi-deep. There was more jazz. Like you had people playing real instruments on stuff. You had Tribe Called Quest. You had all these kind of like elevated, progressive, thoughtful musicians. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think that everyone's just kind of a sign of the environment that they're growing up in. Like you have the music from LA, you're coming off of like Rodney King riots, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, all of this is like very political as well. It's more in your face. It's like, fuck the police. Like, this is what's going on in the neighborhood. And then you also have, on, like you're saying, on the East Coast, you have your tribes and Brand Nubians and later on Commons and Talibs and Moses that are different. They grew up in a different environment.
Yeah. So back to you go inside when it's shitty outside. So yeah, in LA, like you're outside, it's sunny all the time.
Right.
You're fucking having some parties.
Yeah, absolutely.
Makes sense.
Absolutely.
But mind you, I love virtually all of it. But
Yeah.
I think the deepest rabbit hole I went down was the East Coast stuff.
Yeah.
So would Jay-Z qualifies East Coast, or he doesn't
Yeah.
qualify in anything because he's just like overall?
He does transcend all the things.
Yeah.
He does.
For me. Maybe not for you, does he?
No, he does.
He's the Richard Pryor for me.
Yeah, he came a little bit later. Jay popped in 96, 97. This was like
92, 93.
Yeah, this was coming up into that. So he almost like was just a little bit later than all of this like controversy back and forth.
Okay, so when you were loving all this and having an interest in music, there is no Eminem at that point,
No,
right?
no.
There's no Mac Miller. So at that point, are you going, well, there's Vanilla Ice, which you're not going to look at that and go like, yeah, I guess I could be Vanilla Ice. So are you thinking, there's no spot for me in this?
That's a great question. When I first started to make music, I'm 15 years old, 14 years old. You had the Beastie Boys. That was a little bit before my time.
Yeah.
I didn't exactly aspire to be Vanilla Ice. But there was underground hip hop. Underground hip hop to the point that like we couldn't even really probably have a conversation unless you were listening to the same like ripped songs from LimeWire that I was back in 1997 or something. Almost a genre that now doesn't exist with how the internet works. It was like the internet was almost brand new. It was like, oh, how did you get that? This thing called the internet. I was never aspiring to be like a massive artist. I was aspiring to just do a show locally.
I want to earmark that for 1 second. Because as you were saying that, I was thinking, you're what, born in 83?
Yeah.
So I'm 8 years older than you. And probably, yeah, the difference in my childhood and yours was we would go to these record stores in Detroit and comb through shit and try to find old Donald Byrd stuff or try to find Pharoah Sanders or all this stuff. And then you were in the era where your exploration would be on LimeWire.
Yes.
Not that you didn't do that.
No,
but
we did that too. But yes, when I started to make music, it was like the internet was a thing where you could find music.
And I just can't imagine how much quicker I would have been consuming stuff. Because like I had to fucking drive to Detroit and it took forever to leaf through the albums and then you had to walk it over to the record player. Like, so if I wanted to listen to 10 songs in a day, that was my day.
Right.
But in the era of LimeWire, you could like blow through shit and find out what you love.
Yeah, my brother's 4.5 years younger than me. I feel like that's his generation. I think that I'm more your generation. I'm kind of in between, but we didn't have good internet. So like, I'm more of like we were digging in the crates as well.
Okay.
But people were on the internet.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of straddling both.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because on like Napster and stuff, you could find a song that you probably wouldn't be able to find in a record store because they probably don't have a record. It's just like they put a song up, or maybe not Napster, LimeWire, all those things. So it got so big so quickly, the music scene, I feel like.
But you're right.
Then.
There were certain albums we went to like 9 record stores in search of.
Yeah.
Which you wouldn't have had to do. By the way, you're the exact age as younger brother.
I know.
Did you
I
put that
made
together?
connection.
Fast math?
Yeah, fast math.
Okay. Was he born in 87? You don't know he's your
Something
brother.
like that.
Yeah.
Let's call it that.
When you have an older brother, you know what year they're born, but when you have a younger sibling,
he
you
came
don't know.
around later. He fucked my life up. Shout out to Timmy. He's great.
Okay, so it sounds like as you were exploring all that, maybe there were other folks out there that were doing it and it didn't seem insane.
Again, it wasn't that I was aspiring to be any of those artists that we were just talking about. It's just like, I want to rap locally.
Okay.
And then eventually it turned into, you know what would be crazy is if I could go and make enough money to pay the bills. Like a 500 cap room to be able to hit like major markets in America at a 500 cap room was the absolute ceiling that I ever saw myself getting to.
Yeah.
And that came with like a bunch of prerequisites. Number one being sobriety. Like if I could get sober and stay clean long enough, then I could put some music out that would connect and resonate. And maybe one day I could play a 500 cap room in Boston.
Yeah.
And that was the top.
This is why they tell you on New Year's resolutions, like, set them low. It's true, like baby steps. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Like if you set out to play stadiums, you probably ain't going to get there.
Right.
Do you think about that a lot? That like, that was the best I was ever going to get?
I was just kind of reflecting with a friend the other day and we were talking about money, getting paid to make art. And I remember getting a offer to do a show in Colorado for $300. And this is when Ryan Lewis and I had started to make some music together. And it was $300. The ticket was $250 to get down there. And it was like, sorry, Ryan, like, we don't have enough money for you to come.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna go with this mini disc player and DJ for myself and give these like 27 people a show that they're never gonna forget.
Yeah.
And there was a grind and a hunger to turn those really shitty situations that I was in early on forever into great shows.
Yeah.
And that's what turned me into a good performer. It was like a decade plus of doing shows like that. And I think that there's something about the internet now where it's like if you put out a song or if you get a buzz, then it's just like, bam, you're at like the Summer Jam stage at Hot 97 and you have one record that everyone knows.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was like, okay, you need to pay dues and work really hard for a really long time.
Okay, so I'm seeing this crazy overlap between what you do as a solo rapper and stand-up. Right? Like the notion the first time you're going to go out there and fucking rap. Because I find among the scariest thoughts in my mind, me rapping out loud in front of people is terrifying. Monica? Can you, I mean...
you rapping out loud is terrifying to me.
I would rather have sex on stage in front of strangers.
Of course you would. But
Well, yeah, I would like to do that anyways. But
yes,
isn't
it's
that-
the scariest thing. Yeah, very vulnerable.
Oh my God, yeah. So what was the very first time you did it? And did you have nerves like you were going to do stand-up?
I'm just trying to shake you having sex on stage in front of a bunch of people and me being in the audience.
You
like,
would love
in
it.
Amsterdam
You would
or
love it
something.
so much. You'd be planning to your ticket for the next show as soon as it started.
It was one of those things. I wanted to be on stage from the minute that I heard The Heat Is On. I immediately learned all the words. It was like my grandparents' table was the stage, and I'd get up on it and call everyone in, and they'd be like, yo, we just saw your show 10 minutes ago. We don't want to see it again.
Yeah.
But it was that thing. I studied Michael Jackson. It was like I wanted to be that dude. So by the time that I actually had an opportunity, I don't think that there really were nerves. I was horrible. I had one of those moms that was just like, oh my God, you're amazing. Wow, you could do anything. And I was like, well, I guess I am the shit. Okay, let's do this life thing. I had this confidence that wasn't warranted whatsoever.
Yeah, it's like naivete.
Absolutely. Right. I had no clue what I was doing on stage. I used to lose my voice within the first, 30 seconds of a verse. I don't know what's going on. I'm screaming into the microphone. But I wanted more of it.
Sure.
And I was trash for a really long time, but I didn't know I was trash because there was no internet. There was no social media. They couldn't tell me I was bad.
Yeah.
Because people are a lot nicer in real life than they are on the internet.
Oh,
Absolutely.
by a factor of 100.
Yes. I've had one guy drive by me in Seattle one time right by my house and be like, you suck, Mackelmore. That's the only time that I've ever had any negative thing happen to me in real life.
Yeah.
Was he super radical? Like when you looked at him, were you like, yeah, he's got the moral high ground here. This guy rocks.
He definitely had the mullet that I have now.
Okay.
Had a mustache like I have now. He was that guy.
So you did aspire to be him.
Yeah,
it sounds like he did have it all.
I flipped it on him 12 years later. But yeah, there was something in me that felt really comfortable on a stage and performing.
Yeah. But when you were talking about going to Denver, I was reminded of performing with an improv group at this Long Beach outdoor festival. And we were on a stage in a field with 6 people watching, and then 100 yards of some rock band fucking jamming, and we're not mic'd. I mean, it was just
a beating.
it was a savage beating for 2 hours, and I was like, man.
But you leave those shows, it's so weird, even though they're objectively horrific.
Yeah, yeah.
You leave and you're still breaking down. Oh, in this scene, this happened, and we should have done it. You're still taking it so seriously.
Yes, because there's no better teacher than a small audience.
Yeah.
That's the greatest teacher. If I can literally look into the audience and see the 12 people that are there and when they laugh and when they don't and how that transition worked and when it didn't and what beat resonated when it dropped. And when I'm taking that in, that taught me how to do it.
That's the laboratory.
That's
true.
Yeah.
I imagine it's the same with stand-up. I mean, I was listening to Steve Harvey on some inspirational Instagram video he posted the other day, talk about the same thing of making $50 and winning something and quitting his day job and struggling for the next decade or something.
Yeah.
But you get that really intimate experience.
Yeah, comedy, you get some real immediate feedback.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also good because if before you're known, now if you did stand-up, I'm sure it'd be amazing. But if it wasn't, people would still laugh because they like you and they know you. But before you get to that point is when you really know if you're good or,
Well, Seinfeld he has talked about this several times, where you get 5 minutes for being famous. The first 5 minutes you come out doing stand-up, if you're already famous, people are just thrilled to see you.
Right.
And then the show really starts at that point. And then you find out whether your shit is good or bad, even if you're Seinfeld.
I remember opening up for Snoop Dogg. It was a last minute thing.
Wow.
And it was before we were anything. And I'm like, oh shit. What's going to happen? And the idea that I could end up getting booed off stage made us go so hard. It's I need to prove myself in this environment.
Yeah. Are you an approval junkie like me?
Of course. I'm a fucking addict, man. I want to be loved.
Yeah.
Yes.
By boys or girls more or equal?
Anything. I want every sentient being to love me, of course. Yes. I think that's been one of the greatest teachings of being famous is you have to learn to love yourself.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's never enough.
Yeah.
It's never enough. And there's always someone that doesn't. And if you're literally living for that validation from other people, happiness is not achievable for me.
Yeah, same.
I mean, sometimes, particularly in COVID, when we've literally all just reverted back to I'm a dad. I'm just a dad. That's all I am now. You don't become famous, and see what other people seeing. You're just like, I'm this dude, I'm struggling, I'm happy, I made a good song last night, today's song sucked. Like, you never really shift those glasses. That lens doesn't really change.
Yeah.
You're always who you are.
Yeah. Mine's good for the last while, which I didn't think was possible, which I'm grateful for. I think it might be an age thing as well.
Yes. And you do a lot of podcasts.
I do a lot of podcasts. Yeah. My bucket is getting filled publicly quite a bit.
And I think that is something when you're constantly creating, then it can shift because you're in a space of action. You're in a space of, I'm making something consistently. I'm contributing to the world. I'm having conversations, meaningful dialogue with other people. It's, in a way, helping others.
Yeah.
And when you're doing that, there's fulfillment and meaning in life.
Yeah.
It can turn really quickly being in the field of being an artist and AKA a narcissist and thinking only about my career and what's going on and how is this going to resonate with the world, etc.
Where I think I have an advantage as well is that, like, so your work is solitary, or at best, there are 3 or 4 of you sharing the experience.
Right.
I don't know how much time it takes. All I know is, for whatever reason, this has been easy to enjoy process and literally not think about results, which is a very rare state for my brain to be in.
Absolutely.
Like, this is all I'm after.
Yeah.
No, if it's great, cool. And if people like it, great. And if they don't, whatever. But this is what I'm after.
Yeah.
Which is rare for me.
Mm-hmm.
Are you there?
I am there to a certain extent. I think that there's moments in the creative process when you're with other people in that room and you are present. And then that other voice comes in.
After.
And is like, dude, this sounds like a single.
Yeah.
What's the video treatment? This is going to be the one it shows. And it's like, nope. We're literally been in the studio for 15 minutes. Let's shut the fuck up and continue to try to catch the spirit.
Yeah. I bet that is hard.
It is. Or that fear. That fear comes in. It's the opposite. And it's like, bro, you've been in here for 2 hours. This is a waste of time. How do we get out of here?
Gracefully?
Yes, gracefully. Or we booked this thing for another 2 hours, and it's actually my basement, so it's kind of easy to leave, but still. But yeah, to not have those external voices of what is this going to do?
Mm-hmm.
How is this going to be perceived?
Yeah.
Is this going to be successful? And the best art comes from being present with no expectations. That's where that conduit of something bigger than ourselves comes from. That's that moment where we're open. If we're blocking the heart with the head, there's no way for that magic to happen in a room.
Mm-hmm.
I've spent a lot of my life just trying to get to that point of like, how do I get outside of my head and back into the heart and make art from that place?
Yeah.
Stay tuned for more Armchair Expert, if you dare.
It's hard, though, because you have to have the magic for the music, but you also do have to have the brain working in the business sense. Like, those things do have to happen.
Absolutely.
So I think cutting everyone some slack, it's not just like, just be present, because there's this whole other entity that has to also be working.
Great point. I think that's a great point, and it gets back to Dax's question of like, am I there? I can get there in the studio. I think that when it turns into like rollout time, when it turns into like, okay, what's the tour gonna look like, and what venues are we gonna play? And I'm not on a label, so we do, myself, my wife, my management, we have a very small team of people that we've always been in the control, like, if we win, we win. If we lose, like, it's the 4 of us that are really losing here. It's on us.
I totally agree with you, Monica. But what I would say is, what you're aiming for is being able to compartmentalize those times in your life. Then they are actually action. So it's like, you've made the music, you've mastered it, blah, blah, blah. It's this thing. And now the new process is, how do we get this out in the biggest way possible?
Right.
And then that's action. That's being present.
Absolutely.
That's not future surfing. That's like what you're physically doing in that moment. And if you can try to just keep only doing the thing that you would do in the present.
Yep.
I think we'd all be super happy folks. I'm curious because I think we have a similar story in that It appeared I got famous overnight because I was on the show Punk'd, and then 5 seconds later, I was like a co-lead of 3 movies that were studio movies. And so I think for most people, they're like, wow, this came out of nowhere. But again,
I forgot you were on Punk'd. You were on Punk'd.
I sure was.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where it
Justin
all
Timberlake.
started. Yeah, JT.
Damn.
Got him good.
Yeah, like, whew.
Did he cry? Was there a tear?
We talked about that. Yeah, I try to say there's not because I don't want him to be made
I think
fun
it's
of.
sweet that he cried.
The girls
because
love that he
his
cried.
dogs, his mom's dogs were being threatened
Oh,
to
yeah,
be
that's
taken
what it
away.
was.
And
That
so
was so good.
that's a sweet reason to cry.
Yeah.
That was so good.
Yeah. But so I didn't handle it very well.
Mm-hmm.
So then I had all these opportunities, and the first movie I was in did really well. And then pretty much it's like a downhill slide from there for many, many years until I was on this TV show where it kind of picked back up. But I was like, oh yeah, I got all the shit. And then, so now I don't even have to regulate my partying because like the thing that always bridled my partying was like, I got to be productive.
Yeah.
But now it's easy to be productive because I'm getting opportunities and I can just show up and be productive. But for me, any conscious I had about partying just went out the window. I was like,
Right.
okay, now I can fucking rage the way I've wanted to. What's your story?
Very different than that. I got clean in 2008. Went to
Right.
rehab for the first time.
Where'd you go?
A place called The Orchard on Bowen Island, actually in Canada.
Oh, it sounds nice.
Shout out to the friends of The Orchard up there in Canada,
Ooh, ooh.
our northern neighbors. Amazing experience. All the things that rehab should be.
Was there an intervention that got you there?
Yeah, my dad approached me via my mom telling him he needed to approach me, and
Okay.
was like, "Are you happy?" And I said yes, and then was like, "No, I'm not."
I'm so scared.
But I couldn't stop, and I tried my entire life to quit on my own, and it just didn't work. I would be like, all right, now I'm just gonna smoke weed. All right, now I'm just gonna drink beer. It was always this like back and forth, and it never worked. It got worse. I was doing a lot of opiates and I felt like dying because I was pretty fucking close.
2008 too, the floodgates were still open. Like on my recent relapse, it was a pain in the fucking ass to get opiates.
pills.
Yeah.
Well, you've been out the game for a while.
Yeah, that. And now just the whole market is flooded with fentanyl, so you can die. So like
it's sketchy.
Yeah, making sure you actually have a prescription oxy is hard.
Yes, very true.
But in 2008, they were just like you had pill mills everywhere.
Yes.
It was easy, right?
Yeah, it was definitely easy.
Yeah.
So I went there, amazing experience. Stayed sober for 3.5 years. And in that time period.
Did you go to meetings during that time?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Went to meetings, service position, consistence, working steps, all that. Again, getting back to the music, I always felt like if I could just stay clean for long enough, I can make some art that would be meaningful. And Ryan and I made the heist in that time period. So by the time that the heist came out, I think I had just relapsed, but it was like one of those like one or 2 day things.
Yeah.
I had gotten some cough syrup and drank
a little
it
codeine.
for a little codeine thing for a couple days, and told my now wife at the time, girlfriend, that it had happened. And so anyway, it was around that time period that I relapsed, but I still stayed sober. I knew that if I wanted to make art, I had to be clean, and I did that. So I got famous, and I was in recovery. Like I had made songs about this shit. I had been public about it. I have talked about it. I've had 3.5 years relapse. Now I have 1.5 years. Like people are coming up to me at the show, and that was some of my first experiences with, because I didn't know getting out of treatment if I was going to talk about it or not.
Right.
I'm like, no one talks about this.
Yeah.
In hip hop or pop culture, period. Like it's almost this shunned thing. This celebrity's going to rehab.
The Talib line, taking Vicodin pills to numb the pain that they feel. Like that's the only line I've even heard in a hip hop song about Vicodin.
Right, talking about it.
Yeah.
And yet there's this epidemic happening, but there's this stigma around it, and we don't, as a culture, want to talk about it. The anonymity part of the program, can we talk about it if we're in recovery? Can we not?
Yeah,
like,
we're not supposed to.
Press, radio, film.
Yeah.
What do I say? What do I not say? And I was just like, I'm just going to fucking share my experience, strength, and hope.
Well, by the way, your only obligation as an artist or writer or anything is to tell your story. That's the only one you know with any authenticity.
Yeah, it would be disingenuous to not tell what was going on.
Yeah.
Then the fame came.
The fame
and
came.
then the fame came, and shit got crazy. There was so much happening so fast. We were kind of like on the up and coming a year before the heist, so we had booked all of these college shows, relatively low paying college shows all over the country.
How many dates are we talking?
Too many.
Okay. Like 20?
No, we're talking about like 100.
Oh my God.
And this is before anything's happened. So we're in a white van,
great.
driving around doing these shows. And it's not like there's some routing here. It's like, okay, tonight we're flying into Boston. Your show is not in Boston, though. It's in a college 2.5 hours north of Boston.
Sure.
Then you need to drive back to the airport. You're at the airport at 4. You're going to sleep from 4 to 5 o'clock. And then you're going to get back on a plane. You're going to fly to Florida, do the same. It was nuts.
And the fact that you're your own label makes me think someone's holding a piece of lined paper. with
Yeah,
all this
exactly.
written down.
Yeah.
It was definitely my wife. And we're the sober people. So I'm performing, then getting in the white van. My wife and I are switching back and forth driving. It was madness. And we've been like broke, starving artists our entire lives. So like when shit's starting to happen, you don't feel like this is going to continue to happen. You're like, oh, we have to take the 10 grand that's over in Boston, even though we're not going to sleep. And like, we have to do that.
Of course.
And then we need to do it the next day. And as long as this is coming, this is happening as our album is going #1, and all of a sudden Thrift Shop turns into the biggest song in the world, and we still have all of these like 10 grand college paying shows booked.
Yeah, because every time you perform at one of those, you're literally thinking, not that I'm making 10 grand, but that I'm losing like 150 grand or whatever it is.
But we're like, this grassroots like mom and pop band that's like, no, we will show up. We will be at the all-girls school 4 hours outside of Tampa. That's just what we're going to do. So eventually the program became second. And one of the things that's always stuck with me from rehab is that whatever you put in front of your recovery will be the first thing that you lose. And it wasn't just a relapse anymore. It was the sneaky lying. I'm getting pills and I'm not telling anybody. And
you're lonely as fuck at that point, right?
Then it like really turned big. Then all of a sudden it's like Rolling Stone covers, award shows, like I can't go anywhere, TMZ big. And that kind of sucked. I feel like it was just kind of numbing this whole thing. The love, the criticism, everything, it just kind of balanced everything out, and I was just numb to it all. In a period of time where you would think like, dude, you worked your entire life to get to this point.
Feel it.
Feel it. I couldn't feel it. I can barely remember it. All of it's kind of a blur.
Really quick.
I
think there's a few explanations for that. And I think it can also be a combination of things, but I similarly never felt it. And I wonder, like, I don't know for myself, but part of it is like, A, I don't deserve this. I'm a fraud. Like, I can't actually accept all this. And which I guess is I'm not worthy of love and adoration, even though that's all I'm looking for. And then maybe 3 is if I accept this, when I lose it, which I know I'm going to, it'll be super embarrassing because I actually was like feeling it.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. The fear was rampant. Again, as someone that's like wants to be liked and loved, and all of a sudden like the New York Times says something mean about you, or you read this article or whatever. It was really hard to cope with that being clean. And I lost the tools. I think that for me, being in recovery, like I need to work an active program in order to have faith versus fear. I've been completely in a place of narcissistic fear.
What's also very dangerous about success is like I would, in my little opiate relapse, I would wake up feeling shameful about it. And like, oh, fuck, I lied and I'm going to lie more today. And while I'm taking this at 8 a.m. with my coffee. But I would lean on, but I'm going to make X amount of dollars this year. So things are good. It used to be, I would wake up in my 1-bedroom apartment with that feeling, and there's really nothing else for me to lean on. It's like, I feel this way, I have this shame,
and I need more.
And my life's in a shambles. But I almost think having some things to lean on is also a detriment.
Completely. and a schedule completely mapped out.
Right.
It's like, well, either way, I need to go get on a plane and I need to be at the show and I need to perform, and I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
So I'm doing my job.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I've just taken like 6 Percocet today.
Yeah, and I'm not experiencing any of it.
Right.
Yeah, did you find this? Like, I was like, for a while, the lie I was telling myself was like, I'm totally functioning. Like, I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
But in reflection, while I was doing all those things, which I was doing, all I'm thinking about is like, okay, so this thing's over in 90 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm going to go pee and I can take another 30 then. And then, like, literally all my present brain is thinking about is the fucking pill schedule.
Yeah.
Even if I'm doing all the stuff.
Yeah, it opens up those floodgates. The compulsion is back.
Yeah,
The disease
the
is activated.
obsession.
The obsession.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's hard to admit that even if you're doing it seemingly under control, the only thing you're really doing is thinking about those fucking pills.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say to both of you, I really, really resonated with the episode where you talked about your relapse.
Oh, thank you.
And I Justin Timberlaked it. I cried.
Oh, wow.
No.
I cried. I maybe had a tear. We're not exactly sure. But it was within like 2 months of my COVID relapse.
Oh, okay.
And the disease of addiction is crazy. And for someone like you to have as much time as you had and to be vulnerable and honest and come out and tell your viewership, this is what happened.
I blew it up.
And I've only had I'm not going to minimize it. I had 3.5 years at one point, like I said, but I have watched people in the program who get double-digit sobriety or whatever it is, but enough time where that is their identity.
Yeah.
That is who they are. And they start a share and they're like, I'm Ben, I'm an addict, my recovery date is 1971, you know?
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, they're counting days still. And there's ego involved in that.
Oh, big time.
And to get vulnerable and real, the beautiful thing about recovery is when we do that, it lets other people feel like they're not alone and that they can actually open up and share about that shit. And it made me feel, as someone that had relapsed again like a month or two before, that I'm not alone.
Yeah.
It's okay that I did this shit again.
It's what we do.
It's what we do.
Yeah.
And Monica, I think that your part in it was really awesome as well. Like the conversation, the accountability, because it's not about pointing the finger. It's not about like calling you out or like you lied and like, let's support and help and love. We are not finished products. This is something that happens to all of us all the time. How do we uplift right now versus like point the finger? You're already feeling enough guilt and shame and your ego's like shattered from having this time and
I have no identity
sponsoring
anymore.
people and all that.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good to reframe it as it's not something that happened, it's something that happens.
Right.
Relapse and when you're an addict, it's not like, this happened once. It's like, yeah, this happens to people. And
Yeah.
it's something you can't really take your eye off the ball. But for me, being close to Dax and that whole experience and just in general, it just taught me so much about addicts and addiction that I don't think you can know unless you love someone in that position. Because it is, again, I mean, I've said this so many times, but it was like, we're in the middle of a conversation. It's great. Everything's fun. And then it's 2 p.m. Can I have my pills? And he doesn't even know it's 2 p.m. Like, he doesn't even have a watch.
No, he knows. He knows exactly.
I've known 2 p.m. was coming for 30 minutes.
Exactly. And then I look at my phone. I'm like, it's 2 p.m. Okay.
Like a dog who knows its supper.
I mean, I think this idea that like it's a disease gets really overworn and everyone's just like, oh, yeah. But it is. It is. And you really, really can feel it when you're close to it. Like
yes.
that.
You know, back to the ego part, when I came back and I was in meetings and I had 3 weeks, there's one in particular I would go to on Zoom in Detroit. And Detroit's way more religious than the LA scene is. And this one guy would share about God. And really he was saying Jesus. I found that when I had 3 weeks and he went on the God thing, I started resenting him a ton. And I was like, oh, you motherfucker should join the goddamn ministry is what he should do, right? This is what I'm thinking. I am hating this guy.
Yeah.
And then like, I was like, why am I so upset? And I'm like, oh, I know why. Because I lost
Your
my
leverage.
whole high ground on him.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm mad at him that he might be right or that I can't prove I'm right. And I'm like, oh, it's so deep. My whole...
Which is so normal and so bullshit.
Oh, totally.
You know, like we have today. It's a spiritual reprieve contingent upon today. That is what it is.
Right.
And there's been times where I've had multiple years and I've been fucking broken and living in fear and completely miserable.
Yeah.
And there's been times where I've been clean for 2 weeks and have felt connected and have been of service and been present in working steps. I think that there is this idea of time. And what I also thought was interesting was when you used when your dad died, right?
Yeah.
And you told your wife.
Right.
And I've done the same thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, there's this secret, there's this thing, there's a slip. And like, what is it? How do we quantify it? And I can't lose this because right now I got 8 years or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I can't lose this thing or else the rails are going to fall. If I don't want to go back, if I just admit that I relapsed, then the disease is going to be like, motherfucker, you better go get some Coke.
Yes.
Like, we got to go out.
Yeah. It's Jack Daniels time. Yeah.
And we played this game, at least I do.
Yeah.
I've done this a lot.
Well, you're kind of evaluating, like, in our defense a tiny bit. I'm evaluating that exact thing.
Yeah.
I call this a relapse and I don't have 8 years. Well, guess opiates wasn't even my thing.
Right.
It's become my thing.
Yeah.
But Coke and Jack Daniels is my thing. And I know when I do those things, I disappear for like a week at a time.
Right.
So, yeah, if the stakes feel like either I hide this or I admit I'm on day one and now I'm afraid the addict brain is going to make me go out and die.
Right.
It feels like that's the stakes.
Yeah.
Now, shockingly, I didn't ever have the desire to go drink. Thank fucking God.
Yeah.
Like that thing, that fear I had
Yeah.
was not grounded in anything.
Getting back to why I went off on this tangent is like what you were talking about with the pills. The disease doesn't know whether it's prescribed by a doctor or not. The minute that I take anything that is mind altering, where I get that feeling, where I change the way that my brain is working, I want more of that.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if I got it from some dude down the street or if the best doctor in the world prescribed it to me.
Yeah.
And then there's surgeries, there's things that we need to deal with the pain, and that's what can get dicey. Because also, if you give me a bottle of pills and you tell me I take these every 4 to 6 hours, yes, on that 4th hour, I've been counting down for an hour and a half. And I get to tell you whether I'm in pain or not.
Yeah.
It's up to my discretion. It just becomes a slippery slope really quickly.
Yeah.
And I've gotten to the point where I'm like, the free lapse is not appealing to me anymore because I don't like to have to fight that obsession. I'm so sick of the obsession.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting.
It is. And the free lapse doesn't feel good because I just had the free lapse.
Right.
So I just had another round of surgery.
Right.
And Kristen talked to the doctor ahead of time. I was never involved with any of it. And he's like, look, I'm giving him nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm giving him nothing for 6 days.
Yeah.
And the nothing doesn't feel like anything. Like, so even the free lapse isn't the thing you and I are after. I
No.
want some sense of oblivion
Yes.
or I don't want it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more agitating to have your dick very close to the vagina, but never insert it.
Well put, my friend.
Do you think that addicts in recovery have maybe a more evolved look at death? Because you guys are so trained to take each day as it is. So maybe your feelings on death are a little bit less intense than most of the rest of us. Because I think you're already like, each minute is a minute and each day is a day. And I don't know.
Well, I would go further and say that I've probably already hundreds and hundreds of times valued something more than my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think there is some kind of muscle memory of like, I've already made a decision that was terrible so many times where death was a potential outcome that, yeah, maybe it does something in that way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that I know you're not a God dude, and I never was either. I just use the word because it's the most universal.
Yeah.
But it's self-will versus God's will or my higher power's will. And when I think about death or anything, this is beyond my control.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly kind of having to come back to that working a program of like, yo, this dude's an asshole. Like, I hate the way that he's communicating with me. Okay, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot, I'm constantly in that practice. And that is applicable throughout the most extreme cases in life and the most mundane things on a daily basis.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. You guys are more practiced in that, in relinquishing control, understanding you don't have any.
Right.
Where the rest of us are like trying desperately to have control all the time.
That's a great point. Yeah, you haven't like ever been demonstrated to have completely lost control.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You have the illusion of control.
Even though none of us have it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. To feel completely like, oh, someone else is driving the fucking car.
Right.
And has been for 2.5 years is a
Yes.
very unique feeling.
Yes. Monica, did you do drugs?
No.
I forced her to do mushrooms.
Yeah, like last year.
Well, that's not a drug. That's a spiritual experience. Come on.
I was really against that too, and then he peer pressured me, and I did last year do shrooms, but no, I haven't done any like really hard. I drank and I've smoked weed a little, but barely, and that's it.
This is the thing that I'm curious about as someone that's barely done anything, who loves an addict, and found yourself in the middle of some shit. The disease of addiction, it is a disease. It is a disease. But there is this, I think, feeling with people that don't have the disease, like similar to any other thing, like an overeater type of thing or obesity. You're like, why don't you just stop? Why don't you just not go to McDonald's? Why don't you just not order the extra large Coke? Or, why don't you just quit doing the drugs? Did you have that feeling at all around the relapse?
I think by then I knew that there wasn't a choice. And that was so scary. Maybe like before I knew him, I would have probably thought that like, why can't you just have moderation? But knowing him, I think has shown me there's just no option here. If it's there, he wants it. And we have other addict friends as well. And I see it in them too. Oh yeah, the sugar is there, it's gonna be consumed. There's no question. It either has to not be here.
Right.
The asking them to moderate is just not gonna happen. So I also think for me personally, I have no like addictions that will cause me great pain or anything, but I have some tendencies towards obsession, towards things like, so I can understand it to a tiny extent, I think.
Well, right, you can relate to being powerless over your thoughts. Like our thoughts just happen to be about that thing to take.
Yeah.
So you've experienced like, I can't tell this brain to stop thinking about that.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, for me, I never like wished he would not take it. I just wish he didn't have to. Like I just wish that wasn't part of the chemistry but it also made him who he is. It's all interwoven. I also understand that. Like,
right.
You get the good with the bad.
And also, I think that, again, kind of a recovery cliche is that you didn't lose your 16 years. And I mean, I think you say it in that episode. And I think that that's something that's been really something for me to come back to is like, look, I've been in and out of the rooms for 11 years. I don't know how much time I have today, 7, 8 months. I don't really count anymore. I've spent most of the last 11 years in recovery.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's made me who I am. And yes, there's been periods of my life in these last 11 years that are really dark, that have caused my wife a lot of pain, that have caused people that love me a lot of pain, a lot of worry. I've compromised my life and other people around me. I've done things that I'm not proud of. But I do have that foundational level of 10 years of recovery.
Yeah.
And I'm fucking proud of that.
For sure.
Yeah, you should be.
Yeah, like if nothing else, like 11 years of taking some action to be a better person.
Right.
And we're not always better people, like it works some days.
Right.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's funny you'd say that you're not counting because I journal every morning and it occurred to me, I was like, I was at 180 days. And then that night I was in my home group meeting and I literally was like, do I say this? Like they said, anyone got 3 months, anyone got 6 months. And I was like, I don't know if I ever want to get in love with that thing again.
Yeah.
I do want continuous sobriety for the rest of my life, but I don't know that I ever want to get in love with it so that I can't tell the little weird thing I did.
Right.
Because I can't do that again, where I have the little secrets that turn into big fucking secrets. Okay, so that was awesome. That was so fun.
I also really quick, this is kind of tangential, but you've said twice, you've equated artistic abilities and narcissism twice. And I'm curious about that. Do you think you get one with the other?
I noticed I did it twice too.
No,
I felt like too much.
liked it. No, I was going to bring it up after
It
the
felt like
first
too much. The
time.
second time, I was like, oh, God, why?
Show 'em
Pick
my
a
cars.
different word.
No, I think it's probably
Really showing
true.
who I am here. I think that as an artist, all eyes are on you all the time.
Yeah.
You're doing shows, you're in front of tens of thousands of people. You have a whole team around you that's kind of catering and making sure that everything runs smoothly and everything is supporting this vision that you go out and you have the microphone and you greet the people, and that's the touring schedule. When you're in the studio, you're thinking about the album that you're going to make to be able to go do that, the rollout as we talked about.
Your decision generally carries the most weight.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why it's super important for me to have the balance. I think that you were trying to pivot away from recovery, and I'm not trying to go back there.
No.
But I will say,
I just want to make sure you get to promote stuff. That's all. I was just trying to be generous.
but I do think that is where the service component and getting outside of self is so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I am only thinking about me, that's a dangerous place for me. Last week I was driving. I've started to play golf. I'm obsessed with it. My addiction has completely transferred into this random sport. I would have never thought that I would ever end up playing. And I'm driving to it. It's a beautiful day in Seattle, which means it's like 40 degrees and it's sunny.
There's only 100 clouds in the sky.
I counted. And I'm driving there and I'm like, fuck, dude, why am I not happy right now? What's going on? I have a Detroit NA meeting that I listen to. Turn that on, listen for like 5 minutes. I'm like, oh, guys, this isn't doing it right now. This isn't it. And I called a buddy of mine that I know is struggling and trying to put together some days. And it was like, oh, I can call him.
Yeah.
And I called him and we had one of those like 5-7 minute conversations, just heart to heart about the disease of addiction and what's going on, that language that we understand, that addict to addict thing that you're like, oh yes, someone gets me in this world. Yeah. Someone knows exactly how I feel right now. And I got off that phone call. It was like the best thing that I've done in a week. Yeah. And I'm like, that's all it took was for me to have that personal experience with this dude. I wasn't just thinking about the round that I was about to go shoot or like the next time I'm going to be in the studio or the clothing line or anything. It was just like, let me just be present with another addict. And I felt some relief from the bondage of self. It was like, thank you. Yeah. Yes, let me work this program that has been laid out so simply for me, because I wake up in the morning and I think about, what do I want?
Yeah.
Even though I have 2 little kids that are like, I need some cereal.
Yeah.
Oh, same. I get like a visceral memory of the many times I've called people in that situation. And for me, what happens is like, I'll listen to somebody who's just completely spun out about absolutely nothing, right? They'll go through and then my wife, like, she said, are you going to put your cereal bowl in the sink? And now it's like fucking life's over. And I just love hearing it because that is me. And then I just start laughing at myself like, oh my God, we can just destroy anything in our heads. And there's so much comfort in listening to someone else do it. And then I just start laughing at myself.
Completely. It gives immediate perspective and makes life seem just small. We're not here for that long. It seems like a long game. It's really pretty fucking short.
Yeah.
And it can be simple.
We're just monkeys trying to stay busy till we die, is what I say. That's what the aliens see when they look down on us. It's just a bunch of monkeys trying to stay busy.
Stay tuned for more Armchair Expert, if you dare.
Okay, so this golf thing, you are not the first sober person I've known who's completely gone crazy with golf. And in fact, I've turned down invitations from my friends Charlie and Ryan because I have a hunch I probably would become nutcase about it.
Oh, you would?
Yeah.
You would.
How did it happen?
I was on vacation and got peer pressured. It was the day after Thanksgiving. There was nothing to do on the sleepy island of Kauai, and I decided, you know what, okay, I'll go out with you guys. And I hit a bunch of houses and then finally hit a good golf ball out of a sand trap and was just like, oh my God, what was that? And it's this dopamine hit of like, I need to do that again.
Yeah.
I can do it and I need to do it again.
It's so similar to drugs because when I'm doing drugs, I'm chasing 6 or 7 memories I have of when it felt perfect.
Right. The best nights. Yeah, I got completely into it. And shortly after realized that the golf clothing world is pretty boring, to say the least. And I'm going back and I'm looking at like these old golfers from the 80s, the 70s, and I'm like, yo, what happened to these dudes?
Right. Like
these
your Arnie
guys,
Palmers
yeah,
and
these
stuff?
guys had style. Chichi Rodriguez, Arnold Palmer,
yeah.
Payne Stewart. These guys had real style, and now everyone looks like they're selling insurance. And shout out to all the people out there that are selling insurance. But, we could do better in terms of outfits. I've always wanted to do something on the apparel side. I'm tired of like just slapping Mackelmore on a t-shirt, and that doesn't really fulfill the creative aspirations in terms of design. And got a team together, some guys from down here that had pitched me on something earlier and was like, hey, you guys still around? I got this idea.
Yeah.
And it turned into Bogey Boys.
What is the process? Because I'm so curious. You sit down with like a designer? Do you look at like a million different samples? How do you begin curating?
That's a good question. And yes, both those. A guy down here named Nick Guzman, who's turned into a good friend the whole team kind of down here has. They've been awesome. Him and I started to work together. I go through Etsy. A lot of this happened in COVID, so I'm like, I can't go shop right now. Like, I got an eBay account every day. It's like Christmas in my house. These like smoke-stained cardigans are coming in the door. My kids are like, who are you? We would go through, get inspirations. He would kind of design. I'd be over his shoulder, say, do this, do that, throw stuff out. And then we send it off, get samples back, be like, oh, no, this is not it, or yes, this is it. And that process continued for about over a year until we launched a month and a half ago.
So fun.
Yeah, I'm literally thinking about how pumped I would be if when I went into my closet, it was all shit that I had already decided was my favorite.
Right.
Do you love that?
It's amazing.
What do you guys make? Bottoms, tops?
We do make bottoms, which was a complete shit show. Like making pants, like you're, how tall?
Today I feel like 6'3". Between 6'2" and 6'3".
6'2", 6'3". So you would be like right on the cusp of our pant probably not working.
Okay.
And
you can lose me as a buyer segment. I think we're only like 1% of the population.
Because unless you're Levi's and you're like, okay, we're going to make all these different lengths.
Right.
We basically have to keep it with one length. So this has to fit like 5'8" to like 6'2".
Well, I'm a 32-inch inseam. So I'm good to go probably, right?
It's a cropped pant.
Okay.
You might be able to pull it off. You know.
You're right on the verge of our pants not working for you. That's fantastic. Probably Monica too. She's probably on the too small end, and I might be on the too big end.
5 feet.
Not even close.
I'm not going to make
You're
like
fucked.
that.
You're fucked.
You can cut them off and turn them into shorts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, I love doing that.
It is a lot of fun. And to see people out there and taking videos and pictures and tagging us and all that in the clothing, it's just awesome. I mean, this is the dream that I didn't know that I had.
It's kind of a good fit for you in what little I know about your style, but you already have had very eclectic, weird style, which isn't necessarily suitable for like the workplace.
Right.
But a golf course, fucking go bananas.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds so cliche to even say this, but when I was 17 years old, I was going to art school in Brooklyn called Pratt.
Oh, yeah.
And I was
very reputable.
Yeah, it was like a month-long program. My parents were like, okay, you were going to kill yourself in Seattle. We're going to send you to Brooklyn, which was a horrible idea in hindsight, but I had a hell of a summer. I'm still trying to chase those highs.
Sure.
And I would go out to the thrift shops and I would get like old golf outfits and I would call myself Professor Mackelmore.
Oh, that's where it started.
So here we are.
Wow, full circle.
Full circle moment.
Yeah.
Almost like an eye roll of a moment, but yes, full circle moment. And I'm making plaid pants and I dropped the Professor.
I love it.
But again, there's a very safe space to get wild.
Yeah.
If you want to take a big swing.
Yeah,
with your
I
clothing.
think absolutely. I think that there's like the real quirky, wonky brands that are like almost too much. Like, let's just throw every single color in
like
the
an
palette.
AJ Cheers, kind of a novelty shop, like a joke.
I don't know what that means.
You don't know what AJ Cheers is? Do you know what AJ Cheers is?
I don't either.
Oh, it was like where you would go and get novelty items, like jokey
Do you mean
items.
a Spencer's Gift?
There we go.
Okay.
Spencer's Gift.
Spencer's Gift.
I don't know where I've been shopping. So there's that, and then there's just the straight up, like we have blue, we have navy, we have another shade of blue, black and gray and white, and these are our only color options.
I'm going to agree with you. We were very into the Tiger Woods documentary. Did you see it?
Yes. I loved it.
God, did I love it. I don't even care about golf, but you cannot not be blown away by his ability. But I'm going, black Nike shirt, black slacks, black.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing?
That's
if I was there, I feel like I would have a little flair.
There's reasons for this. There's sponsorships, and they give you the clothing to wear, and golf has been historically a boring old white dude sport. And there's the gatekeepers that would like to keep it that way, and you need the collared polo and the khakis and all that.
Now, I remember watching a Real Sports like 6 years ago. I don't know if this is still the trend, but golfing was just plummeting as a sport, right? There was even in this Real Sports thing, there were like courses that had opened up where on the green, it was like 12 inches of the fucking cup. They're like, oh, what people hate is how hard putting is. Let's try it. Like they were throwing the kitchen sink at revitalizing it. Has that corrected at all?
I think golf is the most popular that it's ever been now.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it completely rebounded.
Yes.
Wow.
COVID has done wonders for golf.
Oh, that makes sense.
You have Top Golf, which is like a arcade for golf. You go out and you hit it into a certain area of the driving range, and it's all colorful and lit up, and anyone can go and get drunk and do it. There's all these different ways that the game is expanding. I think it's funny. Yesterday, I like some golf Instagram account that I follow posted Kim Kardashian. Kris Jenner bought all of the Kardashians their own golf bag with their name on it. Like, and of course, like that's some random like outlier thing, but I think that it's indicative of what's happening. There's a resurgence here, and it's probably going further than it ever has. I think the addictive nature of the sport is being felt by more people. Obviously, we need to open up the gatekeepers and the old white dudes that are still holding on at these country clubs, and we need to make this thing accessible for all people.
Right.
That needs to happen. It's still really expensive. It's still expensive to own clubs. And that is happening. It's just a process.
Yeah.
But yes, golf is very popular right now.
That makes sense because just the fact that Charlie and Ryan are so into it, and they only do things that are really popular.
That's true.
They're so young. And
Dude,
hip,
you would love it, but don't do it unless you just want to create a new passion that takes 5 hours.
Well, what I always tell my friends when they invite me, like, hey, guess what my wife is not saying yes to? Me going like, hey, honey, I'm going to go Saturday for 5 hours somewhere. It's just not happening in my household.
Well, unless you then say, okay, I'm back, and now you go somewhere for 5 hours. She would do a trade-off.
Okay. Maybe that would work. All right. I have a hunch that when I start doing it, I'll be a psycho for
Well, that's true. You'll want to do it every
And it's not
day.
just once a week either.
But I'm not there yet, but it's on the table that I might stop doing track days on the motorcycle. Like I'm having conversations with other older guys that I ride with. Like, have we already won hero status? Is it, can we just, like, we're all live. Should we just stop now? But I'm not there yet, but something's going to have to replace that. So, so maybe.
You're going to stop doing track days, and then you're going to get hit in the head with a golf ball.
Or crash a golf cart.
Yeah.
I think probably more people die in golf cart accidents than one would think.
I bought an electric bike in COVID.
Yeah?
Rode it one time. And I bought like the $10,000 bike.
Yes.
I shouldn't have said that out loud, but I did.
Yeah.
It's like Batman's fucking electric bike. It's like all matted out. It's beautiful. Then the golf courses opened back up, and I was like, you know what? I'm good. And I got the trailer for the kids and everything. We literally rode around the block one time. I'll push them in the trailer every once in a while, but I sold the motorcycles.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
No, I sold them.
Oh, you sold them? I thought you said I still have.
No. My wife was finally like, dude, we need to get rid of these.
What kind did you have?
I had a Harley and a Ducati.
Ducati.
Yeah. But the Harley was great.
Yeah, I like a Ducati.
Yeah.
I had a Harley for years. I do all these things where they're my passion, and I look around, I'm like, it's weird because this isn't my tribe.
Of people.
Yeah.
Right. I feel the same about golf.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, God, I love this thing, but everyone here really hates immigrants. Like, I don't.
Shit.
Why is it that we both love off-roading, but you hate immigrants? I don't know. I'm always in that situation.
Yeah. Well, change their minds, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's what I'm trying. Listen, I got to say this. This is going to be difficult to say, but I was very excited to sit and interview you because we were both on Kimmel and we had a good time. We were guessing the names of objects, and it was really, really fun. you were a super nice guy. And then I told a few people I was interviewing you today, and I was excited. And one or two of them said, like, are people like, do they hate on him for something? I was like, I don't know, do they? I'm so out of the music world and who hates who. And then so I like, in my research of you, I was trying to find like, is there an issue? What is the issue?
Yeah.
And I came away very unclear with what the issue was. I think it seemed maybe some people just generally are upset that musically this is a space that should be for black folks only. Is this too dicey to talk about?
No, it's not at all. I don't know if it's that clear cut.
Okay.
It has been a long, I mean, this is a 3-hour conversation
Okay,
for
and we don't have to have it, but I want to acknowledge that I heard that. Mind you, when I asked both of these people, like, well, what are people mad about? I don't know. I think that's a thing. And I'm like, but about what? And it made me think like, I know that about people, right? Like I'll hear, oh, so-and-so's got a thing. Well, what'd they do? I don't know. And I'm like, oh, this is dicey. Like,
right.
We all know they have a thing, but no one knows what the thing is. Like,
completely. Well, I think that if you look at white artists in the hip hop space, in historically black culture and music that came from a struggle that I have never experienced, I think that there's always a conversation around what is the role of the white rapper within hip hop culture.
Yeah.
And everything was okay. Everything was like, okay, he knows where he's come from. He pays respect to the elders and the OGs, and he understands his place, and he's dope. He's good at what he does, yada, yada, yada. Everything was okay. The minute that it turned into this thing that we didn't have control over anymore. It was that
This is
big.
you winning a Grammy over Kendrick Lamar.
Yes. And it was even before then, it was like this roller coaster. Just kept going up and up and up, and we just kept winning shit, and everything was all good. And then it was the Grammys. Mind you, I'm coming off of like active addiction. I like just detoxed enough to be able to like go to the Grammys.
Oh, man.
And talk about fear.
Oh, yeah.
Because I just saw the episode playing out in this conversation around cultural appropriation and white privilege and things that I've talked about in music for a long time, but are now getting like really brought to the forefront of a conversation around race in hip hop and whiteness and appropriation in hip hop, which is good. Like we should be having those conversations. I think that it becomes difficult when you're like the poster child for that.
Yeah.
And you're feeling that heat. And again, I'm in a place of fear. And we were going into the Grammys, and I'm not clean. And it happened really quickly, as these things do. Like, we're backstage, and this time, they don't announce, like, best rap song, best album, best whatever other Grammy I won, the three of them before the show. Those 3 rap ones, they don't announce those live in 2013 or 14 or whatever it was. So, like, it was like, boom, someone comes in and is like, yo, you won 3
Oh my God.
of the rap.
Oh, you find out all at
backstage,
once.
all at once. And
that
it's
seems like a weird way to
shit.
do it.
Yes. At the time, the Grammys didn't think that the hip hop category deserved to be on television.
Oh, okay.
In the same way.
Okay.
So, and then we won Best New Artist. And I remember feeling like, oh shit, we won all of them. Like I wanted to win.
Sure.
I felt like I deserved to win some. But I felt like Kendrick should have won the best rap album. As like a rap fan, as objective as I can possibly be, I feel like Kendrick should have won that category.
Yeah, because right? Like Bradley Cooper's a better actor than me. I would not.
Maybe it's so like in that movie versus I don't think you can say blanketly about
I think
anybody.
he's probably a better dramatic actor than me.
But it's open for interpretation, and not everyone think that. There's a lot of people that would disagree, even looking back now. And I'm like, look at what The Heist did and Good Kid, Mad City. They're like very different albums. We're comparing art. Like there's a problem with. In general, of awarding shit, period.
Like I don't like it at all.
And award shows are fucked, and they're so political.
What they are is a night of television.
Yes.
That is sold for ads.
Yes.
They are a product.
Absolutely.
They only exist for that night of ads, which is millions of dollars in ads.
And if you look at it like that, and a very skewed Grammy committee that decides what wins and what doesn't win, I think what was an interesting thing about the whole experience is that, again, you're looking at whiteness winning in a black genre.
Yeah.
This is like systemic racism. There's a reason why Thrift Shop ends up on the radio. There's a reason why parents feel like it's safe to play for their kids. It's a reason why like I'm getting hired to do this show and that show and show up at this birthday party, even though I'm cussing my ass off because I look like them.
Yeah,
and I'm safe.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a bigger systemic racism current than just like, oh, he shouldn't have won, he should have won. There's something a lot bigger going on.
More important.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the internet here. Like some people are just like, oh, he should have won. He's trash. You know, like it's, but like this is literally, we're talking about why things become popular, why things are safe, why things are successful.
Yeah.
And a long, long lineage of things that are white having a push that other things don't get.
Sure.
At a pop culture level. And anyway, to answer your question, I think I handled it poorly with posting the text that I sent to Kendrick after. I'm completely like in, again, a fear place. I'm high. I relapsed again that night.
You're making great decisions that started
yes, absolutely. Like let's kick this year off right.
It's shocking how many bad decisions come after the first bad decision.
Oh my God. And that roller coaster was just like, boo.
Yeah. And probably fear also, I would imagine, of like, fuck, I can't write another album like that. I'm not going to be able to replicate this.
No. And I think the next one I listened to it the other day for the first time in years, and I was like, you know what? It wasn't as bad as I thought it was at the time, but it like, you know, wasn't so successful as the first one. Like, actually pretty good. But like, there was a lot of fear. And once I started the creative process of the next album, I kind of shook it. But yeah, there was absolutely residual trauma from that whole experience. And it took me some time to really work through it. And the thing that I love that came from the process is it got me closer to what we started this conversation talking about, which is making art for the sake of art with as little expectations as possible, knowing that I am never going to appease everyone.
Yeah, it's not possible.
And that if I go out there with that intent, I'm going to be bummed out every single time. Yeah. And I finally got, with this last album that I made, in the music sense, I got to a point of like, I just want to have fun in the studio.
Yeah.
I want to capture those moments. And the last album was really successful. It wasn't like 2 diamond songs off the Heist successful. And to be completely honest, I don't really know if I would want to go back to that place.
Yeah.
I like my life now.
Yeah, it's like Eddie Vedder's experience. Like,
right.
He's happier doing what he does.
Right. And he still like
awesome.
Goes out and kills it and makes great art, but he can like walk through the airport.
Yeah. Really quick, I think it's awesome your perspective on it, because you're right. There is this enormous machine that is our society that benefits you in all those ways you just said. One thing I'll push back on a little bit, though, is that, so when I worked out today, I listened to your Essentials playlist on Apple. I'm hearing you tell your story.
Right.
Like thrift shop. You're fucking into going to, I mean, this. You're not acting like you're from the hood or that you were selling birds on the fucking sidewalk. And then you've got the Same Love song, which is clearly in support of gay marriage. None of this stuff is posery. You're not trying to purport that you're like from the hood or anything.
No.
So in that way, I disagree a little bit with the criticism. Some of the criticism I read. But I got to say, ultimately, I have to tell you this, because I pray you never go read anything on the internet, as I don't, about myself. But I was reading stuff about you on the internet. And when I would type in, why do people dislike Mackelmore? Someone would write, I think he blah, 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 whatever it would be. I promise you, every single message board I went to, the 6 or 7 follow-up questions were like, I'm not defending, I'm not in or not, but I saw him at blank festival and he was fucking awesome. I saw him at every single thread that I tried to go down ultimately had people talking about how much they love seeing you live. That's literally what the takeaway for me was. I was like, oh, no one really knows why there's an issue. And everyone that's weighing in is like, I saw him here and he's fucking awesome and I'm going to see him again.
Yeah.
So I would imagine, I hope you know that, yeah, we're in the show up and work business, not the results business. And you just go out and play and people fucking love to watch you play.
Yeah.
And that's where it ends.
I appreciate that and I feel that. And I think that what came from all of that Grammy controversy and reaction was this notion that like I didn't feel like I deserved it, and there was this like guilt. And again, we're talking about one category. I think that what it boils back down to is like, I'm good at what I do.
Yeah.
I've worked really fucking hard. I know how to write a record.
Yeah.
I know how to tap into that thing.
You've been doing it for 24 years.
Yeah, I've been doing it for a really long time. This isn't like I think lesser of myself thing.
Yeah.
That whole narrative thing on the internet, that's not reality and that's not my reality.
Yeah.
I don't believe that. And the people that think that I'm a fucking god, that's not a reality either.
Yeah.
Like neither one of those are real.
Right.
I am who I am today.
Yeah.
I am who I am as an artist. I am who I am as a dad, as a partner, as a person sitting on this couch in this pocket. Like, this is what's real, these tangible things. I cannot let outside public perception skew me to be lesser than or higher than how I actually feel about myself today, and that's that self-love. And that comes with doing this fucking work, these steps and the recovery and all of that. It all feeds into the same thing. And then all of a sudden I'm like, you know what? I'm doing pretty fucking good.
We're lucky enough that we can all co-pilot each other because there's Kristen, there's me, there's Monica. We all step in it. Like, we've had the anti-vaxxers against us. I've had diabetics hate my guts because of a joke. Monica will read some things that she's a bitch on the comments, right? And all of us get to co-pilot each other and go like, find one person in your life that you know that knows you and see if they have that opinion. If they do, you have a problem.
Right.
Like if the people that know you and are in your life have this issue, then it's an issue. But I would challenge anyone that we know to say you're a bitch. I don't think that exists.
Right.
Or that I am a big pharma shill.
Yeah.
No one that knows me thinks I'm a big pharma shill.
Yeah.
And so on. But it is helpful that we're not alone in these moments where you need to be reminded of that. I need to be reminded of that.
Yeah, I remember reading a review of the album After the Heist, This Unruly Mess I Made, and it was a review from USA Today, and it was 0 out of 5 stars. And it was that moment. It was like a freedom moment for me. I was like, okay, I don't ever have to read this shit again.
Yeah.
And anything that anyone says is bullshit. Everyone is bringing all their own baggage and their own issues. And it's just like anything. It's like everyone brings their entire life behind them into judging some other piece of art that somebody else made.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Like, have your space on the internet and your YouTube comments, whatever it is that you need to get out, go ahead. I'm going to continue to do what I love, which I feel so grateful that I get to do this thing.
Yeah.
That, like, this has always been the dream. I'm going to continue to do that to the best of my ability. That's all I can control. And everyone else, absolutely continue to talk shit or to praise or to love or whatever it is that you do on the internet.
Go nuts.
Go.
Yeah.
Go do it.
Yeah.
Speak loudly in all caps. Helvetica. Go.
I've had 2 experiences where, first and foremost, I would have never done it about myself because that would have been too self-serving. But I read a bad review of The Kingsman Part 2. And the manner in which they reviewed this movie, I got really indignant. And I was like, you know, there's no fucking integrity within art review. Because in a car magazine, which I read all of them, they got to review a Honda Accord, right?
Right.
No automotive journalist wants to drive a Honda Accord. There's nothing sexy about a Honda Accord. And they'll say it's boring looking and blah, blah, blah. But they will also say Honda builds a perfect car. This thing's going to last 300,000 miles.
Yeah.
Everything works on it. It's simple. Like, they acknowledge what makes a good or bad car.
Yes.
And what pisses me off reading The Kingsman is like, if you know anything about movies, you have to at least see the accomplishment, both technologically, in the performances, in the transitions, in the music. Like,
yes,
it is mechanically a very well-made movie. Now, it might not be for you. That might not be your tone or your sensibility. That's fine, but you should have enough integrity to acknowledge it was a well-made movie.
Yes.
It just, the notion that you would get 0 out of 5 stars is impossible. It's not the first time you picked up a banjo.
Right.
So I had that. I've had that opinion at times, and I want to go on the offensive. But then another thing happened where I was reading this review of, who's our favorite writer? Newsroom.
Oh, Aaron Sorkin.
Aaron Sorkin. It was a review of something Aaron Sorkin had written, right? And it was just taking him to task as if he was the world's worst writer. And I thought, oh, if that's happening to Aaron Sorkin, I can't ever be upset people don't think my shit's good. Like, here's a guy who's probably the best writer in that space.
Yeah.
for the last 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
And someone thinks he's a terrible writer. Not just that they didn't like it, but that he's a bad
Yeah.
writer.
Yes.
And I was like, oh. To never even think about it again.
Yeah.
Someone's saying Aaron Sorkin sucks, and he's much more talented than I am.
Yes.
So I just got to get over it.
Right. There's no reason to waste time and energy on it. And everyone gets it. That's the other thing about it.
Yeah.
There are so few famous people that just come through like unscathed in their entire career of like not getting
Tom Hanks.
criticized.
And he's going to kill
I'm sure
somebody.
he did. I'm sure he did. I mean, you'd probably say that about Kristen, right? Like,
Yeah.
Kristen's but she's not. She's had things, and they come and they go, and you forget, and it's fine. Like everything's
I mean,
temporary.
Frozen 2 flopped. Like,
Yes.
it's just no one saw it.
She was off key the entire movie. I give it 0 out of 5 for singing.
Yeah, everyone gets it. And I think that you develop thicker skin and
Yeah.
you keep making art. And those that don't, the thing is like, there's this notion that people aren't people once they become, it's like, it's
Yeah.
everyone's open season, fire away,
Yeah.
say whatever you want about these people. Like, we're artists, like people are sensitive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm super sensitive.
Yeah, thank God I developed some like tools to deal with this shit, and I
Yeah.
stopped Google searching my name. Like,
Yeah.
and then there's always the people in your life too that are like, dude, I saw what Denina said about you. Like, what the fuck? And I'm like, damn it,
Like,
I didn't
wanna
see-
know that.
I didn't see that. There's a reason now.
Exactly.
I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, just leave that alone. I don't want that.
You don't need to tell me when people light me up. I'll be fine if I don't know that.
Please keep it away.
Well, listen, Ben, you're fucking awesome. This was really, really fun.
So fun.
People who are new to golf, thinking about golf, they should go check out Bogey Boys. Do you have a website?
Yeah, bogeyboys.com.
You got it.
Yeah,
Did you have to buy it off someone?
I think we did.
Okay. Bogeyboys.com. That's
we gotta
really.
get our boys some bogey boys.
Oh my God. Yeah, we got to get Charlie and Ryan. Although
I brought you a shirt.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'll wear it just for fun, even if I'm not
Yeah.
golfing.
It's a lifestyle thing too. It's not
Yeah,
like just golf only by any means.
If you're in the
Wear it, life.
the clergy,
Anything.
oh, yeah, you're a boxer.
Yeah.
Wear it in your next match.
All that.
But yeah, Ryan.
Yeah,
This
we'll
is
get
so
our
Ryan's
guys
style, too.
outfitted.
All right, lovely. Well, Benjamin, it was fucking awesome.
Yeah, thank you guys
yeah,
so much.
so fun. All right.
And now my favorite part of the show, the fact check with my soulmate, Monica Padman.
Hello.
Hello.
This is a ding, ding, ding.
What?
Because Mackelmore, he lives in Seattle,
Yeah,
and you just came home from Seattle.
I've just returned from Seattle. I was there forever.
Oh my gosh, I just remembered that I asked you to buy me a mug, and you did. And I got to pick it up.
When we did a live show there with Dan Savage. Why didn't you get one then?
I was going to get it at the airport, but we were in a big rush.
Oh, right.
So I didn't end up getting it. This is a Starbucks mug. I love mugs.
I do too. I specifically love Starbucks mugs because you can get a good size mug.
Yes, it's a great size.
I like to pour a lot of fluid in there. Although they don't make the extra big ones I used to collect, which I wish they did.
Yeah, that was the best size. Although, now that I'm drinking matcha, I don't require as much. So I'm actually into the smaller mugs
It's a
now.
little, it's not as tall vertically.
Yeah, it's
I guess you don't have to
thick.
say vertically when you say tall. No, it means wide.
True.
Yeah.
True.
But I had a big, well, it wasn't a huge decision to make, but they had two different kinds there. They had Washington, the state,
Yes.
which was beautiful. What a beautiful state. You got the Cascade Mountains, I believe. Are they the Cascades? I hope that's right. And the Puget Sound. What a place. As I was telling you, when we took off yesterday, it was exactly at sunset. I was looking at the west side of the airplane, and I could just see all the water join the Pacific. It was incredible. That's neither here nor there. I didn't know whether to get you the Washington one or the Seattle one, but then I decided Washington just wasn't specific enough for you.
Yeah.
And then you were relieved about that, and you told me you thought there'd be confusion.
Yeah. Well, I had this exact same situation happen in Hawaii.
Yeah.
In Hawaii, there was a Hawaii mug
Uh-huh.
and there was a Waikiki mug.
Right.
I think we may have already told this story, but I'm happy to repeat it. So
And we weren't in either. Well, we were in Hawaii.
we were in Hawaii.
But we weren't in Waikiki.
But I didn't know that. I thought we were. So
Okay.
I was in there and I was like, oh shit, I normally like to go more specific. I should get the Waikiki. But I went out on a limb. I went Hawaii. I went broad.
Yeah.
It was a little prettier. And then I was very happy to learn we weren't even in Waikiki.
Yeah,
so
it was a big relief.
Yeah, if I got that mug, that would have been a huge disaster. But I'm really glad you didn't listen to me when I told that story a lot of times, because if you had listened, you would have gone Washington.
No, I did listen very closely to that story, and I remember all the times you told it. But I know you better than that story. I knew that story was anomalous.
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
Can you say anomalous? It was an anomaly.
You can say
You can say-
analogous.
No, that means it's
I know it's a
analogous.
completely different word,
Oh,
but you
yeah,
can
but that is
say
a good
it.
word.
Yeah.
Oh, we haven't given many recommendations lately, and I've found 2 diamonds.
Okay. In the rough?
I guess you could call it. I would call it more the haystack because
Oh,
there's so much content. A couple diamonds in the haystack is what I found.
okay.
The Tina Turner documentary
Uh-huh.
is incredible.
I've only watched a little bit of it, but I am loving it so far. And I've heard great things.
This is a dumb thing to say, but I'm going to say it anyways. Hearing her story made me embarrassed that I have had a hard time getting over some of my hurdles in life because hers was so unbelievably challenging. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking. Among the very most heartbreaking parts of it, you saw this part. When she met Ike, she didn't think he would let her sing on stage with him because she wasn't pretty.
Yeah. And she
was
is so pretty.
I know. I wanted to go back in time.
Oh, the time machine.
Yeah. I got so much to do.
You can
now.
add that to the list. Yeah.
I did have that thought. I was like, I want to go back in time and tell her how beautiful she is and that I love her.
Yeah.
And then I thought, is that a weird
Yeah, it's weird.
solution?
Of course. Of course it's weird.
Yeah, but don't you? I don't know what else to do. I wonder if
You can
no,
do
she's
it. It won't
beautiful.
change. It won't change her mind just because one person thinks that.
That's true.
Unfortunately.
I know. It doesn't work that way. Anyways, really good documentary. What endurance, what
Yeah.
dedication, what a hard worker. What a fucking lightning bolt. When she
Yeah.
was young on stage,
Yeah.
there's nothing like it.
So special.
They
We'd
say
love
that-
to have you on, Tina.
We sure would. They say that Mick Jagger stole his dance moves from her. I don't know if that's true or not, but it seems likely when you see her dance.
Wow. Is her name Bettina?
No, her name isn't even Tina. Ike gave her that
yeah.
name. And then what's interesting is when they got divorced, she just gave him everything. But she said, I want my name.
Oh my God.
And she made a industry out of it.
Oof.
Yeah.
What's the second diamond in the haystack?
The Great. The Great on Hulu about Catherine the Great. I love the tagline when the episode starts. It says, occasionally true or something.
That's like Fargo's.
Right. Well, Fargo straight says it's a true story because the big gimmick is that it just occurred to them. You can write based on a true story. There's no legal ramification for you saying that.
Fargo's is, for the TV show, it says, this is a true story, all caps, then regular caps.
Okay, back to regular caps.
The events depicted in this film took place in Minnesota in 2006. At the request of the survivors, the names have been changed. Out of respect for the dead, the rest has been told exactly as it occurred.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and of course it's
Not.
true.
It's a whole...
Yeah. That's great. Anyways, The Great, about Catherine the Great, and she arrives to marry her second cousin, who's the emperor of Russia, and it's a satire, I guess you would call it. Very unique tone. They really go for it.
Yeah.
And I just love it. I was super sad when I finished it in Seattle.
It has like what I would call a dark, edgy Wes Anderson vibe.
Sure. Yeah, the sets are beautiful, and everyone's foul and terrible. And
Yeah.
I love it. I just love it.
You love it.
And then I found out a ding, 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 which was the lead emperor was the child in the Hugh Grant About a Boy movie.
Right.
And they look identical still.
Not to get nitpicky, but I don't think that's a ding, ding, ding.
Okay.
Because nothing about this episode has anything to do with About a Boy, Hugh Grant.
You're absolutely right. When I found that out, I thought in my head, ding, ding, ding.
Oh, sure.
Because oh my God, I know
you made a
him.
connection.
Yeah. And I was like, oh gosh, how did I not see that? It's so obvious.
The ding, ding, ding is proprietary
It
to
is.
this show. It's novel and proprietary.
You're absolutely right. And I didn't mean to misuse it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Macklemore. Or are you done with your needles? I mean, your diamonds?
Yeah. Yeah. So Ben, which is Mackelmore's real name,
Yeah.
before he became Professor Mackelmore.
Yeah.
I just loved him.
I did too.
I really loved him.
I really enjoyed that conversation. So fun to be back in the attic. The vibe is so different.
It's outrageously different. Just when you convince yourself like, oh yeah, you're not losing anything on Zoom. We're having great. Then you do it in person and it is a, what's the best adjective? I mean, visceral. I overuse that word, but
it's a seismic shift.
You're connected in a way that then time starts warping, which I always love.
Yep.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
I miss it so much once we did that.
Me too. He was lovely. And he had a lot of, again, what I kind of said in the intro and we brought up a little bit is there's some feelings around him with some people that are negative, but no one really can articulate why.
No one knows why.
And and it was just lovely to sit across from him and have him be vulnerable and also weigh in on some of that. I really appreciated it.
Me too. I'm glad we went right at it too. What the fuck are people talking about? Oh, also his wife was so lovely too, Trisha.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, Trisha forced him to come down.
Yeah.
To do it in person, thank God.
Yes. We got into some facts. You said you thought bikes were more dangerous than motorcycles.
Bicycles, yeah.
Bikes are the most dangerous way to get around, with the exception of motorcycles. Bike riding is also about 500 times more fatal than riding in a bus. Okay, so it's not great, but motorcycles are worse.
Okay. I'm going to let this go.
Okay.
I wonder if that's,
Go ahead.
I wonder if that's total or per capita. Because clearly more people ride motorcycles, right?
I don't know. Probably not, because you have to have a license to ride a motorcycle.
Yeah.
And any old person can ride a bike.
That's true.
Where did the hipster movement start?
Ooh.
As hipsters, young creatives priced out of bohemian urban neighborhoods in Brooklyn, such as Williamsburg, Park Slope, and Greenpoint, moved into suburbs near New York City. The New York Times coined the neologism hipsterbia to describe the hip lifestyles as lived in suburbia. Interesting. Okay. So
I would have guessed there or San Francisco, I think.
Oh, I wrote this down probably because I just learned it when I was doing this edit, that the ArcLight has nothing to do with Mackelmore, but the ArcLight closing. Yes.
Closest thing we had to a church.
ArcLight is the movie theater here, and it is an institution.
It is. It is. Well, people would recognize the Cinerama Dome. It's always proudly displayed in any movie set in Hollywood. You're going to get a shot of the Cinerama Dome.
Yeah.
And ArcLight operated the Cinerama Dome. But behind the Cinerama Dome was 13 beautiful theaters with the best sound, best popcorn in the business.
Oh, we would Postmates it once.
Would. That's how decadent we got. And it's, my gosh, it's heartbreaking. It's really rattled the LA community.
I know. And I asked you if you would buy it for me.
That's right. And I said, I think the place is probably worth $30 million, the real estate. So
is the Cinerama Dome also closing? Or can someone else operate that?
Well, yeah, I'm sure they're going to they're going to sell it if they're going out of business. Now, whether the people who buy it tear it down and build something different or they try to operate it, I don't know. I don't even want to think about it, okay? I'm done thinking about it, all right? You okay?
You can still buy it.
I can't buy it. I don't have $30 million.
I'll chip in, okay? I'm going to chip in $45.
All right. Maybe, oh my God. I'm not even going to launch this plan. I was going to say, maybe I could find 20 other actors who love it. But then who's going to operate it? I don't know how to fucking run a movie theater.
Well,
are there even movies? I don't even know what's going on. I just love that place. And that was probably the number one place I was most excited to return to when quarantine was over.
Oh, it's really upsetting.
I don't know where I'll go to the movies. I hate all the other theaters.
It's a bummer. I mean,
it's a desert other than ArcLight.
Well, the Grove. It's just far.
Too far for me.
Yeah.
And then the City Walk, too busy for me.
Yeah. Okay, I guess we're not going to the movies anymore.
All right.
Okay, you said you were 6'2", 6'3". And
medium build.
And you said that you think you're 1% of the population. So I was going to do a little height percentile calculator.
Oh, okay. I'm going to stand by that number. I got nervous since you've brought it up. I'm like, is it that much? But, Yeah, I think I meet 100. For every 100 people I meet, I think there's only one person that's taller than me on average.
Oh, it wants me to make this a kid. This is a kid.
Well, I'm not a kid.
No, you're not. Oh my God, all these are kids. Okay, hold on.
Oh boy. Well, this didn't wear well for me. I found one if you want it.
This one says 14.5% of all men are 6 feet or over.
Yeah, it's no good. This one says 3.9% are 6'2" or taller.
Mm-hmm. Among CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, that number is 58%. That's of the 6 feet number.
Oh, 6 feet. Okay.
6 feet or over, that's 14.5% of all U.S. men, but that's 58% of Fortune 500 CEOs.
3X.
And then, 3.9% of adult men are 6'2" or taller. It's called the necktie syndrome, why CEOs tend to be significantly taller than the average male.
I just assumed it was a confidence thing. Like you have such an advantage to be confident if you're towering over everyone.
Okay. And you said you think more people die in golf cart accidents than one might think.
Yeah, I do think that.
So let's see.
That is a belief of mine. Oh, fuck. This proves my theory, man. Remember I always say that I'm going to die young because I'm tall and you never see tall grampies?
Mm-hmm.
So 96% of the population is below 6'3" that are 18 to 24 years old. 98% below 6'3", be 25 to 34. Right, you see what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
You get to 65 to 74 years old, 99.9% of the population's under 6'3".
Okay. Yeah, but that's also because they shrink.
I think it's because they die.
No, they shrink.
Okay.
Okay, golf carts. Golf cart deaths more common than thought.
By Dax Shepard.
Over 15,000 accidents require a trip to the emergency room each year.
Wow.
These accidents are often more severe than a regular car crash.
Sure. No seatbelt.
Yeah.
No structure above you.
Ooh, children make up about 30% of golf cart accident victims.
Oh, boy. No, thank you.
All right, we don't like that. All right, that's a sobering note to end on.
That's that?
I didn't find out about fatalities.
Let's assume it's low. But at any rate, 15,000 injuries.
Yeah,
that's a lot of people going down.
15,000 emergency room. That's pretty
Right,
intense. Yeah.
All right. I love you. I'm so happy to be back from my voyage.
Me too. You and Mackelmore switched.
We did. He flew back home and then I went up like 2 days later. And there was an awkward moment when he was leaving because I think we both really liked each other.
Mm-hmm.
That I was like, oh, I'm going up to Seattle in 2 days. And he's like, oh, cool. And I'm thinking like, is one of us supposed to say like, you want to get lunch or?
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I would say the ball is in his court for that.
Yeah, it's his home, right?
Yeah. And he would say, oh, well, look, if you have any time, you should reach out. And like really vague.
Yes. And then I would have been like, oh, I'd love that. I don't know any great restaurants. Mind you, I found the most amazing steakhouse of all time.
Oh, yeah.
It was so delicious. Rob and Jethro and I went, and it was orgasmic, like your medicine cabinet.
That's right.
Please follow Monica Padman on Instagram at
ML Padman.
ML Padman.
If you want to see my medicine cabinet.
You do. Not to be missed.
Wait, but just real quick, tell people about the 3 kinds of meat.
Oh, shit. Wagyu from Japan. Olive, snow, and a third one I can't pronounce. And we got a sampler of that. And it was, you could just cut it with a fork.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Did you get it rare?
No.
And did they look down on you for not getting it rare?
No, this is the thing. This whole medium rare and rare thing is a little bit of an urban legend. It's like what everyone's dad tells them when they're young, like a good piece of meat, you have medium rare. That's horseshit. For a ribeye which is really fatty and has a lot of marbling, and even this woman, I was so happy. This woman's been working at the best steakhouse in Seattle, and maybe the country. It's won many awards. She goes, you should never get a ribeye, anything below medium, and maybe even a little above, or the fat doesn't melt.
Oh.
And so But Jethro, who's not super into meat, he was like, aren't you supposed to, we all know, like, aren't you supposed to not get it over? And it's like, no. You're supposed to get the fat melted in that marbling. So anyways, the sampler I wish had been even more, I think we got it
cooked?
like medium, but their kind of medium was medium rare. I got my ribeye medium well, which was really like medium tops.
Wow.
Anyways, here's the crazy thing. That stuff was amazing. Like it was really unique and it was amazing. But the ribeye for me is it.
It's your favorite.
I also ordered a ribeye and it was better for me. That's my steak review. See the Great? Watch Tina Turner and ribeye.
Ding, ding, ding. Bye.
Love you.
Love you.